Greetings internet users, water is an essential element for life. In the depths of our oceans, numerous forms of life develop, and it is believed that our origins were precisely in the waters of the ancient oceans at great depths. If we were travelers from another planet and saw the Earth, the first thing that would catch our attention would be the intense blue of its seas and the clouds formed by water vapor. Indeed, water covers almost 71% of our planet. We find it almost everywhere, and we might think that there is enough water for all of us, but it's not the case. Out of all the water on Earth, 97.5% is salty, and only 2.5% is fresh, of which only 1% is suitable for human consumption. Whether we like it or not, we are beings that consume fresh water, which corresponds to a minimal percentage of the Earth, just like there are freshwater fish and saltwater fish. We couldn't survive by consuming salt water. Our biological system is not prepared to eliminate such a large amount of salt, and we would become dehydrated, just like a river fish would perish if placed in the sea, and vice versa. But why is there such a large amount of salt water, and why is only a minimal amount of it freshwater? I will begin by discussing the origin of salt water to understand the origin of water on Earth. We have to go back about 4 billion years in the past when the primitive Earth was cooling down. It expelled a large amount of volatile gases through geysers and other processes of volcanic activity, which produced a significant amount of water vapor in the atmosphere. This vapor condensed and fell as rain for millions of years, forming part of the oceans. Another part came from meteorites and comets, but it is believed that the majority of the water came from protoplanets originating in the outer asteroid belt. So it is highly possible that the water you drink every day has an extraterrestrial origin. In its natural state, water has no smell, taste, or dissolved salts. Due to various processes on Earth, it can transform into freshwater, which has lower salt concentrations, or into saltwater, which has a high concentration of dissolved mineral salts. Pure water becomes saltwater when it combines with other chemical elements such as sodium chloride and sulfates, among others. In primitive Earth, the heavier elements remained deposited in the rocks, and when rain fell on them, it carried away some of those chemical elements from the rocks, forming the seas and oceans. This process took place over millions of years, leading to the salinization of the oceans. Additionally, at great depths in the ocean floor, there are hydrothermal vents that expel large concentrations of salt. But nowadays, it is estimated that there is a 3.5% of dissolved mineral salts. Nonetheless, many forms of life have adapted to our oceans, indicating that the salt concentrations are fairly stable. There is a regulatory mechanism in place, partly due to the wave action, the renewal by lakes and rivers, and also the collision of rocks on the coast, which deposits some of the accumulated salt. Additionally, the excess salt tends to accumulate in saline sediments at the ocean floor. However, despite our planet having a sea devoid of all life, where the salt concentration is so high that no organism can tolerate it, and that sea is called the Dead Sea. When I mention mineral salts, I'm not just referring to table salt, but also other dissolved substances like calcium, magnesium, potassium, and bromine. The Dead Sea has a salt concentration 9 times higher than regular oceans, reaching 28%. Due to this, it is practically impossible to sink in it. The reason for its high salinity is that it is a closed sea with no outlets to renew the water, and rainfall is minimal, resulting in all the salts being highly concentrated. Although there are other seas with higher salt content, the Dead Sea is one of the most well-known. Now, why are there areas on Earth where water is freshwater? Many might wonder why it is called freshwater if it doesn't have sugar. Simply put, it's to differentiate it from saltwater. Freshwater, which we call sweet water, has a much lower concentration of salts. The water in rivers is constantly in motion and being renewed, which keeps the salt concentration low, and the salts remain dissolved for a short time. The same happens with lakes, as most receive fresh mountain water inflows and have constant outflows. In contrast, the sea has limited outlets, and the mineral salts that constantly come from rivers and rocks can remain concentrated for millions of years. These salts usually do not evaporate and instead become more concentrated. On the other hand, ocean water does evaporate, forming clouds that create rain. Rainwater has very few salts. It is essentially distilled water. However, along its path, it can collect pollutants, especially in urban areas. Some might ask, can I drink rainwater? Experts say it's possible if collected quickly. However, it is safer to boil it, as raindrops can rapidly collect atmospheric contaminants, and it's better not to take any risks. Now you know why seawater is salty and river and lake water is freshwater. It all depends on the degree of water renewal and the number of inflows and outflows that a lake, ocean, or river has. You may have also noticed that water for human consumption is scarce, and only 1% of Earth's water is suitable for us. This means that part of the fresh water needs to be treated to eliminate possible germs. That's what we call potable water. Humanity, in its quest for conquest across the planet, is significantly reducing that 1%, mainly due to industrial pollution, waste by more developed countries in domestic use, aquatic activities, and agriculture. While a large part of the world wastes and contaminates the limited water we we have, 1/3 of the world is dying of thirst and has limited access to potable water. Water is a renewable resource, which means that nature constantly replenishes it through geysers, hot springs, and evaporation. About 77% of fresh water accumulates as ice and snow and needs to be treated for human consumption, with only 0.69% corresponding to rivers and reservoirs. As you can see, the scarce potable water we have is being turned into a non-renewable resource as it is consumed faster than it is replenished. Moreover, industries contaminate water so aggressively that nature cannot renew it, and the process of purification is enormously costly. Consequently, we have less and less water in the world. Earth is the only planet in the solar system with liquid potable water on its surface, and although we have found water on many other planets and moons in our system, whether in the form of surface ice, subsurface water, or water vapor, it is clear that Earth's water was due to a series of coincidences of cosmic impacts and chemical processes from its interior. If we wanted to live on another planet or terraform it, like Mars, we would need to bring a large amount of water from Earth on our journey. In time, the most favorable place for our development would be a planet with a high concentration of water. It has been shown that humans require a significant amount of water, and there should be enough water for everyone on our planet, but not enough to satisfy our ambition. Exoplanets that could be interesting are ocean planets filled with small islands. It is likely that the ideal planet we find should have much more water than landmass. Now let's review the bodies in the solar system that contain water, whether in the form of liquid ice or water vapor. It has been shown that the Sun has concentrations of water vapor. Mercury has high proportions in its tenuous exosphere. Venus had a lot of water in the past, but has been losing it through evaporation and now only possesses 0.0002% in the form of water vapor in its atmosphere. The Moon has significant amounts of water in the form of ice in some craters at the poles. Mars has water vapor in its atmosphere and ice in its subsurface. The water that comes to the surface cannot remain in liquid form for long due to its weak atmosphere. Gas giants have minimal amounts of water in their atmospheres, but the interesting ones are the satellites of Jupiter and Saturn, especially Europa, the satellite of Jupiter, and Titan, the satellite of Saturn. These satellites possess even more water than our planet, but most of it is in the form of ice and water vapor and would need to be treated. They seem like very interesting targets for the future. Now you see that Earth is not the only place with water. We find it everywhere in stars, galaxies, nebulae, asteroids, comets. Hydrogen and oxygen are common elements in the universe, and it seems quite frequent for two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom to combine under certain circumstances to form water, although only on some celestial bodies can significant amounts exist in a liquid state. For water to be in a liquid state, it needs to be in the habitable zone of a star and have a dense atmosphere to maintain that state. Earth is the only place in the solar system that has drinkable water, although it could be obtained from many other planets. In the end, we will likely choose worlds with a greater amount of water. Europa and Titan would be reachable with an achievable technology in a few centuries. Even though it may not seem like it, water is our most precious asset. It is the most important resource for life, and it has been shown to be more abundant in the universe. However, it is difficult to find it in large quantities and in liquid form. We are depleting the water on planet Earth due to our way of life. We are literally the greatest threat to ourselves. We must strive for a more equitable distribution of resources. That's why I often say we are like an oasis in the desert. The other worlds are too far away for our current technology. So, as long as we cannot leave our Earth, we must protect and care for it to the best of our ability. Water is the greatest natural treasure we have. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and don't forget to subscribe.